when I was going to write my prelims, the day before I couldn't complete my sleep because I had a very deep cervical pain. So I think मेरा गिल्ट का सबसे ज़्यादा फेज तब था जब मैंने अपना फर्स्ट जो एग्जाम है उसको फेल कर दिया था प्रीलिम्स का. क्या मैं कभी भी इस एग्जाम को क्रैक कर पाऊंगी? The second was the guilt of letting my parents down. But whether these risks are worth it or not. And just imagine, do you want to live that life? So one was that a whiteboard in which I wrote that I want to come in the top 10. So this thing I knew that it does not matter how badly I have failed. It just matters how badly I work hard to cover that gap. So that is also I realized during the course that I do not need to idolize a person जो रात को पढ़ रहा है या फिर जो शाम में पढ़ रहा है. So from my failure to success, one thing that I did. Hello everyone, this is Gamini Singla. I have secured rank 3 in UPSC Civil Services Examination 2021. And here I am not to talk about any tips, any strategies to crack the UPSC exam, rather a topic which is very important but still very neglected. So it's about the mental preparation that an aspirant or any person goes through when he or she is on the way to climb the ladders to any kind of success. So I believe that this is very important, and in this a small video, I'll just give you a snapshot of the mind of a person who is traveling those ladders up and what kind of challenges that person faces. So let me tell you, when I was climbing up those stairs, I never knew that I will ever reach the summit. And it was becoming day by day tougher, and day by day, it was very mentally taxing, and I used to feel like I'll never be able to make it. So, and the second thing I used to feel about was that maybe every other topper or every other person who has reached that level has not felt it. So here I am to just tell you that everybody does go through that. It's just that some of us do not talk about it, or some of us do not discuss about it. But everything that any one of you is facing right now, I have faced it, because everybody is a human at the end of the day, and we have similar problems. So the first problem that I used to face was comparisons with my peers and with not my peers. So though I had decided that I will take UPSC as my journey, but my comparison was always with my peers who were settled in multinational companies and who were enjoying their lives, who were going on trips. So that was there constantly in my mind, that I could have had that life, and still I chose to do this, and I'm still not done with it when they are progressing in their lives. So what helped me at that time were two things. So the mantra was that just exchange your life with that person that you look forward to. And just imagine, do you want to live that life? So one was that a whiteboard in which I wrote that I want to come in the top 10. So I think when you keep seeing that again and again, you know what your goal is. And then you see people who have already achieved it, you keep listening to them, you listen to their videos, you see them having achieved their goals, and then you push yourself that if they can do, why not you? So this was my question that I used to ask myself daily, that if any one person has done that before, so why I can't do that? So I think this thought is very important for anyone who is in a stressful condition, because if others can, you can do that too. It's just that we need hard work, we need positive mindset to work towards that. The second thing I used to face a lot was pressures from family, pressures from your near and dear ones. And it's not that they put the pressure on you, it's just that you start feeling it. So whenever you are on a journey which is risky, where you know that you might not get the results, the questions like, what if I do not make it? What will I let those people down who have been there throughout my journey? So these questions were there with me, because I could see my parents struggling hard. They were supporting me. I could see my brother being there by my side every time I used to feel I'll not be able to crack this exam. So this is very natural. So do not let this pressure build upon you, because it's counterproductive, because that pressure is like, you want to achieve this thing, that's keeping you away from that achievement. And second thing is, you are doing injustice to those people who are supporting you in the journey, because at the end, their positivity which was there to push you, you are being pushed away from that particular thing. So what I started realizing was that communication is very important. So sometimes your near and dear ones, they wish the best for you, but sometimes their wishes become a little bit of pressure on you. So it's better to communicate at that very point and to utilize their emotions in a positive manner. So how I did it was that I knew that my parents want to support me. So I used to communicate my demands to them. If my time was being wasted to scan the paper, I would just ask my brother to scan the paper for me. And in that way, I used to take that help. From my father, I used to get my newspapers marked. From my mother, I used to ask her for the best dishes that I really wanted, which could be helpful in my entire journey. So the only thing I am highlighting here is that those pressures or those energies that your near and dear ones have, those can be converted into positive energies if you know how to avail those journeys. The next thing that we feel in our day-to-day life whenever we are on our work is the guilt of not doing enough. So in my book also I've mentioned that there are two types of guilts. One is the negative guilt and one is the positive guilt. So the negative guilt can be about anything. Like, for example, if I'm preparing for the exam, I'm missing some family functions. I might have to miss some family sorrows as well, where I'm not of support to my family a lot. So that used to make me feel guilty that whether I'm doing right thing or not. So that I realized towards the end of the course was a negative guilt, because any day it was pushing me away from what my end goal was. So that, my dear friends, is something you need to keep yourself away from. So you have to give it a thought that whatever you are thinking or whatever you are feeling, whether it is fitting into your end goal or not. And this type of guilt, the negative guilt, I think it pushes you away. While on the other hand, the positive guilt that I'm talking about is which pushes you to work harder the next day. If you've set a goal for, say, X amount of work to be done today, if you were able to complete 90% of the work, pat yourself on the back for those 90%, but that positive guilt should be there in your mind that that 10% is still remaining. And work hard for that 10%, and do not just be like, ki, agar 100 aaj nahi hua, so maybe tomorrow also I'll not be able to complete that 100. So it's just the way of thinking. So it's similar to the glass story, whether we see the glass half full or half empty. So it's whether you see 90% of the work being done or the 10% being left. So that mindset will be changing gradually. So from my failure to success, I think my mindset played a very, very important role. So one thing that I did was the positive self-talk. From saying daily to my parents that I will not be able to make it, to saying it on a daily basis that I can make it, that the people who have made it are like me. So saying things positively also changes a lot of things, which we do not realize, but in the background, I think it does 50% of the work already. So I believe that positive mindset and positive self-talk is very, very crucial in any kind of journey that we face. So I think मेरा guilt का सबसे ज़्यादा phase तब था जब मैंने अपना first जो exam है उसको fail कर दिया था prelims का, and a lot of thoughts were running in my mind. तो पहला था कि क्या मैं कभी भी इस एग्जाम को क्रैक कर पाऊंगी? The second was the guilt of letting my parents down, my family down, because they had so many expectations from me. तो वो सब thoughts था मेरे मन में भी. I think what made me realize this thing was when I saw other people who had failed earlier and then got the success. So I knew that failing does not mean that you can never get success. And secondly, if you fail by a larger margin, do not think that success is very, very away from you, because this is a constant thought that we have. If we are closer to success, it means that maybe we'll get it soon. And if we have failed by like a huge margin, so maybe we are very, very away from the success. So this thing I knew that it does not matter how badly I have failed. It just matters how badly I work hard to cover that gap. So that thought process, I think, was something which helped me. And for this thought process, I credit my family, my brother and my parents, because they used to tell me that it's okay. Sometimes things go wrong, and only one or two things, by correcting them, a huge margin can be covered also. It's not that you need to do multiple things right. Sometimes just 2-3 things are wrong. You need to put them right and the pieces fix very beautifully, and you can go ahead and achieve your dreams also. So this one thought process helped me, and I hope that it helps you also clear whatever path you are following. The other things that we face during the journey are the fear of failing, because any risky journey, be it starting a startup, be it leaving your job to crack an exam, there are so many risks that we take, but whether these risks are worth it or not. So for me, the risk would have been worth it if I have given my 100%, because you cannot predict the result. There is a lot of uncertainty. But what should be the end goal is that whether you have given your 100% to it or not. And when I failed my first attempt, I never blamed my risk for it. I knew that there was something wrong with me. There was something wrong in my strategy. So that's the next thing that helped me bridge that gap. That was the no excuses policy, which is also a chapter in the book, which says that do not make excuses about the other things that are in the environment, about the people around, about the examination, or about the journey, about your boss. I think the excuse had to be shifted from there, and you have to deal with the fact that these things are going to stay constant and you need to maneuver through them. When I was going to write my prelims, the day before I couldn't complete my sleep because I had a very deep cervical pain because I wasn't using the right pillow in the new guest house. So what happened was I had to wake up at 4 a.m. So that could have been an excuse for me wasting my entire day, because it said that sleep is very, very important before you go for the exam. But there are no set patterns for anything. So if you, wherever you are, whatever situation you are, you need not think that if this is that, so you'll not be able to clear the exam or you'll not be able to clear the journey. So that was where my no excuses policy came handy. I knew I had just to deal with the situation at that point, get the painkillers, get whatever sleep I can, and not make it an excuse in my mind. So I know if I had mentally accepted that now I'll not be able to clear because I had to face this issue, I wouldn't be here. So what mattered at that time was the best possible solution to the problem, and still being confident that your hard work that you've done since years, it is going to pay, and this small problem is nothing in front of that. So there were many other obstacles that come in the way, but your attitude again towards that thing really matters, and the substitute for that also. So when my grandfather passed a few days before my examination, I wasn't able to study for a lot of days. So slowly and slowly I started realizing that I have to get back to work. So then I realized that maybe writing an exam is something which helps me better to keep my nerves in position, because I'm not able to think a lot about everything else that's going around. So that was my mechanism of coping up with that particular situation, because my mind was only focused towards the exam and writing the mock papers. So the only thing I want to tell here is that you will have to derive your own solutions. And before that, your mindset is very important. So if you're oriented towards the solution, you will get it. But if you just keep focusing on the problem and not the solution, I think it will be a Herculean task to go to that solution. So in my case, I knew that I have to figure out the solutions, and then they followed. Other thing that I realized during the course was that two things are very important in any journey. One is the self-forgiveness, and the other is the acceptance of yourself as you are. So in self-forgiveness, it goes about whatever mistakes you've made in the past, you forgive yourself for that. Because I knew maybe I wasn't able to do my mocks properly, maybe I was not giving my 100%, and when you realize it, you are in that phase of regret that you've not done it. So you need to forgive yourself, move from that point towards a point where you accept those mistakes that you have committed. And secondly, you also need to accept your strengths and weaknesses. So if somebody else is able to do some particular chapter in say 1 hour, and you take around 2.5 hours, so rather than cribbing about this fact that you take extra time, it's rather it's important that you accept it and then work towards it. And there's nothing called as one mantra for success. So you might be an early starter, the other person might be the one who reads late at night. So both these things are equal unless and until you are doing the same amount of work, you are doing the same thing that is needed. So that is also I realized during the course, that I do not need to idolize a person जो रात को पढ़ रहा है या फिर जो शाम में पढ़ रहा है. If I want to wake up early and study, it's actually fine. So that is one message that I want to give you, that identify your own unique patterns, identify your strengths, and deal with your weaknesses, and the mechanisms will differ from person to person, rather than just following one person whose strengths and weaknesses might be very different. The other thing that we talk about less is the breaks, the importance of breaks. So we think that we need to work continuously, and then only we can achieve our dream. But let me tell you, breaks are as important as you working hard, and productive breaks are even more important. So what I mean by productive breaks is that you need to know that if it's a 15 minutes break, how do you plan it? If it's an hour break, how do you plan it? So you can't ring a friend in that 10-minute break, because you know that the conversation will last beyond this 10 minutes. So these are the small changes that you need to make. So if it's a 1 hour break, go and meet your friend, go and call your friend, but don't do that in that 10 minutes break. So these are the small changes that I made in my journey, and I think the small they sound, but a lot bigger effect they had made in the journey. So I will just tell you that if you are facing any issues or if you are feeling stressful, it's completely fine. Everybody goes through that. It's just that slowly and slowly things will become better if you keep giving your best. तो जैसे कि acceptance की मैंने आपसे बात की, तो one thing that I accepted about myself was that I was a little fearful of prelims because I had failed it once. So I gave more time to it. I gave more mock papers to just get out of that fear. So some people just give around 30-40 mocks and they're done with it. But I knew that I need to work that extra mile, and I gave a little more mocks. I spent a little more time on that, and I accepted it, and I think that was something that really helped me. And regarding the planning of my breaks, in a day, what I used to do was that my initial hours were very productive. So I limited my breaks in the initial hours of the day. So I would just like study for 1.5 hours and take just 10-15 minutes break. But towards the end of the day, when I started getting tiring, it was like 45 minutes of work and then half an hour of break also. So that you will have to change as per your capacity to study and your timing to study. And it's fine to go for a one-day break if you have like studied for 15 days, if you have given your best. And sometimes when the exam is approaching or when something critical is approaching, you might tend to push yourself that extra, but it's fine if your mind needs that one-day break. I remember just 1 month before the prelims, I went and binge watched a series just because I knew that my limit is reaching. So to rejuvenate myself, I did that half-day break I took, and I think that last month went pretty smooth and I could give my best. So in the last, I would just say that every person's journey is unique. Your troubles can be unique and your ways to cope with them are also very unique. But what remains same is that you're determined enough to solve that every problem. So that determination and that hard work, that positivity has to be there. And I think that you will make your way through it, because I have also traveled through the same path, and I'm sure most of us also do that. So I hope this was helpful to you, and taking your leave on this note.
अगर आप इस टॉक के एंड तक पहुंच चुके हैं तो मैं आपको जोश टॉक्स का एक दूसरा रूप भी दिखाना चाहता हूं, जिससे मैं काफ़ी देर से जुड़ा हुआ हूं और मुझे बहुत बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद है कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं। जोश टॉक्स ने एक नया ऐप लॉन्च किया है जिसका नाम है जोश स्किल्स। अब वो नया नहीं रहा, काफ़ी टाइम से है, लाखों लोग उसको अब यूज़ करते हैं। और जोश स्किल्स पे आप अपनी ज़िंदगी के लिए कोर्सेज ढूंढ सकते हैं। वो कोर्स नहीं जो आपको फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, कॉमर्स, बिजनेस स्टडीज पढ़ाएंगे, वो कोर्सेज जो आपकी जिंदगी में आपको कैसे जीना चाहिए वो सिखाएंगे। मैंने खुद जो स्किल्स पे बहुत सारे कोर्सेज बनाए हैं, पब्लिक स्पीकिंग पे, इमोशनल क्राइसिस कैसे हैंडल किया जाए, अपनी पर्सनालिटी कैसे डेवलप की जाए। हर एक कोर्स में डेली क्विजेज हैं, एक्सरसाइजेज हैं, एक बहुत ही खूबसूरत कम्युनिटी है जो आपको सपोर्ट करेगी, आपको इनकरेज करेगी। आज ही डाउनलोड करें जोश स्किल्स का ऐप और उनके कोर्सेज एक्सप्लोर करके अपनी जिंदगी को आगे बढ़ाएं।